Hi guys, Donna Gold here. I wanted to do a video comparing the Earthquake spell to the Jump spell. As many of you know, the Earthquake spell is an effective tool for destroying walls, and many people have been using it instead of the Jump spell because they like some of the advantages it brings. In fact, some people have said that the Earthquake spell is going to replace the Jump spell because it's more effective. I think that may be true in some situations, but I also think that there are other situations in which the Jump spell is still the more effective spell. And so I wanted to discuss some of these advantages and compare these two spells in different situations so that you can be better equipped to select the right spell for your attack. As you're going to see as we go through this, it's really going to depend on what type of attack you're bringing and what base you're attacking, which spell is going to be the best for you, and so you really need to get in there and scout those bases. Just in case you didn't know, 4 Earthquake spells is what is required to destroy any level of wall, regardless of if it's from down to wood walls or up to electric walls, and regardless of the level of your Earthquake spell. So 4 Earthquake spells hitting the same wall will destroy it completely, and that brings us to our first advantage, which is the duration. The Earthquake spell effectively lasts for the entire battle. Of course, the spell itself doesn't last the whole battle, but the effect does, meaning that the walls are destroyed and they're gone. Versus the Jump spell, where the spell itself lasts for 40 seconds, but after the spell disappears, you can no longer take advantage of the ability. So this is a clear advantage for the Earthquake spell. I do want to caution that this isn't the big advantage that it seems like. It is an advantage, but I think it's kind of a minor one in most situations, and the reason for that is that the Jump spell is usually the 40 seconds that it allots is almost always sufficient. I've never run into the situation, well, I guess I shouldn't say never, but very rarely one in this situation where the troops I need to use the Jump spell are unable to use the Jump spell before it runs out. And usually when that does happen, it's because whoever placed the Jump spell placed it way too early. Now, granted, it's kind of a small advantage to not have to worry about whether you're placing it too early and to just have the freedom of mind to be able to use your Earthquake spells at the start of battle, get it out of the way, and then you're not having to remember or fumble to find the spell in the heat of battle. So, as I said, advantage Earthquake spell. Just note that it's not a deal breaker for the Jump spell, because the Jump spell 40 seconds will get you in. The next thing I wanted to talk about is damage to adjacent buildings. Earthquake spell does do damage to adjacent buildings, any buildings that are within the spell radius. Jump spell does none, so once again a clear advantage for the Earthquake spell. Now the amount of damage that the Earthquake spell is going to do depends on the level of the spell and the hit points of the building. It's going to do 22% of the building's maximum hit points worth of damage to any building within its radius. That's for 4 spells again. Remember, it takes 4 to kill the walls, so I'm assuming you're always using 4. Up to 40% of the damage is building's max hit points if it's a level 4 Earthquake spell. So if it's a building like the Town Hall that has a high max hit point value, this could be a large amount of damage, 1,000 hit points. If it's a building with a small amount of hit points, it's going to be a small amount. So whether this is always an advantage for the Earthquake spell, because any damage is better than none. How big of an advantage depends on what buildings are going to be in the radius, and that's going to depend entirely on which walls you need to destroy in order to fit your plan. So, for example, if the walls that you need to destroy to fit your plan happen to have high value targets like a Town Hall, an Inferno, and an Expo all within the radius too, that's a huge bonus here on the Earthquake side, because you're going to be doing a significant amount of damage to those high hit point, high value buildings. On the other hand, if the walls that you need to take down are an intersection that's a little further away from the core, because it's on your way to the core, and it happens to have a bunch of storages and maybe a cannon within the radius, not as much of an advantage. The storages aren't going to take any damage because they no longer do take damage from spells, and you're going to do 22% damage to the cannon. Okay, great, but not a deal breaker. So, always an advantage for Earthquake. How much of an advantage depends on the base. You need to look at it. I would never use the Earthquake spell just to damage buildings. It's a total waste, in my opinion, for that. So don't be using the Earthquake spell to take down a wall next to the Town Hall just so that you can hurt the Town Hall if that wall that was next to the Town Hall wasn't that important of a wall. I would always try to damage or take down the walls that are important to your attack first, and then see what buildings might also get damaged in the process. and that's the process I think that would be the best to go through. The next thing we want to talk about is the diameter of the spell. The earthquake spell covers 9 squares across. The jump spell covers 7 squares across, so that's a clear advantage for the earthquake spell. This can let you, in some situations, open an extra compartment that you wouldn't be able to open with the jump spell. Now, usually you're going to be using the jump spell or earthquake spell at an intersection, which means you're almost always going to be getting into 3 or 4 compartments with either spell, and it's not really an advantage for either. However, there's those occasional situations where the person laid out their base such that if you place the earthquake spell well, you may be able to open 5 compartments, and which could be an advantage over the jump spell. There's really almost no way you can open 5 compartments with a jump spell. It's just very difficult to do. But it's possible with this 9 square radius. But again, it depends on the base. You're not always going to be able to do anything more with the earthquake spell than the jump spell. If you've got a T intersection, both of them are going to open 4 compartments, and it doesn't matter. Alright, so far the earthquake spell is totally beating up on the jump spell. There's almost nothing that the jump spell can do that the earthquake spell can't do better, except for the last thing, and this is an important thing: the spell space required. The earthquake spell takes 4 spells, 1 space each. Jump spell is 1 spell that takes 2 spaces. What does that mean? If you take the jump spell in, you get to bring in another spell, another heal, another rage. If you bring in the earthquake, you're down 1 spell, 1 heal, 1 rage. That's really the only advantage that the jump spell has. However, that advantage is enough to make it worth your while to consider the jump spell in various attacks. In particular, hog attacks and Laloon attacks, in my opinion, the jump spell is still the clear choice. For those attacks, you require certain spells in order to do the attack effectively, and if you lose one of those spells, it can spell doom for your attack. So, in particular with hogs, you need as many heals as you can get in order to deal with all the defenses and the giant bombs. In fact, sometimes just using the jump spell at all, you're losing that 1 heal is hurtful, but it's worth it to go in there and get the queen and maybe trigger a giant bomb. But losing another heal spell in order to use earthquakes, so now you're down to 2 heal spells, I don't think you can do a successful hog attack with only 2 heal spells, unless you're doing some kind of hybrid attack with go wee wee / hog is on the backside, something like that. But if we're just talking a regular hog attack going down to 2 heal spells, I don't think it's worth it to get a few more damage on the town hall or something like that. Especially because you're usually in the Laloon or hog attack, you're usually using the jump spell or earthquake spell just to go in and get a targeted building. You're trying to get the queen and maybe one other thing on the way, like a air defense if you're doing Laloon, or trigger a bomb if you're doing hogs. You're not trying to take out the whole base with that. That's what your hogs are for, or what your balloons are for. And so the fact that the duration lasts for a long time, or that you do some damage to some other buildings, those things really don't matter so much in the hog and the Laloon attacks, because it's your hogs and your loons that are in there doing the real destruction, and you're just trying to get in and get that queen. And so the jump spell does the trick, and being able to have that extra heal or that extra rage if you're doing Laloon is a big deal. On the other hand, maybe a go wee wee attack, losing that 1 spell may not hurt as much. Now, I still think it will hurt, and I still think that sometimes maybe the jump spell may be the better choice for a go wee wee attack, just because I really do think having that extra spell is huge. But if there was an attack where losing a spell hurts less, I think it's the go wee wee compared to like a hog or a Laloon. It's not going to destroy your attack to lose one of your heals or one of your rages, and so in that case, the earthquake spell may be a good choice. In particular, if it's a particularly tempting situation where you can get into lots of compartments because of the extra radius, and you can do some damage to some high-value buildings, that may tip the scales of losing that 1 spell and make the earthquake spell more in your advantage. And so I really think, once again, you need to think about, well, what kind of attack am I going to do on this base, and can I afford to lose a spell? If you can't afford to lose one of the spells, game over. Don't even worry about the rest. Jump is the one you want. If you can afford to lose one of the spells, then take a look at the base and see, is it going to be worth it to lose that spell? Am I going to be able to hit a high-value target with this extra damage? Am I going to be able to open an extra compartment? If those things are available for you and you can afford to lose a spell, then go with Earthquake. So I hope this discussion has helped you, and that we can start using these fun new tricks to our advantage. See you guys.